Hey everyone, welcome back for the session with Thomas Edwards Jr. This is going to be fun. Thomas gave me a little sneak peek during our podcast interview, so I really want to just jump right in. So let me go ahead and introduce him. Thomas Edwards is an innovative visionary in maximizing fulfillment in life. Creator and author of The One-Up Effect, he works with professionals, leaders, and businesses wanting to level up their purpose, joy, passion, and achievement using his unique game-like methodology for high-level transformation. He's a former professional wingman, that's a fun story in BTW, and has been featured in hundreds of media outlets, including features in Men's Health, The Wall Street Journal, GQ, Entrepreneur, The New York Times, MTV, ABC, and The Steve Harvey Show, among others. When he's not collecting watches, swimming laps in the pool, or being a hashtag girl dad to his 4-year-old daughter, you can find Thomas playing some of his favorite games with his wife in Carlsbad, California. Welcome to the summit, Thomas. Is my music?
Thanks for having me.
Hold on, I gotta get the music. It's not. Can y'all hear it? I gotta. It's playing on my.
I can hear it.
Okay.
It's really real. Nothing's ever gonna be the same.
Okay.
I get to say goodbye to the struggle in life. Say hello to the sky. Spread my wings and fly away.
I want to honor your time. Okay, welcome, Thomas. We'll have the chorus ready for when we're complete. How are you doing on today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic. You know what? Today has been amazing, honestly. So I'm amazing.
Awesome. That's great.
I'm just, because, and not that this is about me, but just for a moment since you asked, like, this has just been really dope to see this idea now actually happening in real life, in real time, and being good. So I'm loving it. So anyway,
I feel like it's important to take a moment and acknowledge what's happening like right now, like it's not that you're doing it, like it's already done.
Yeah.
And now you're just in the experience, enjoying it, right?
Yeah.
And taking these moments to acknowledge yourself, while other people acknowledge you, like myself, and so I think there's a lot of, for those who, I had this thought. I was on a walk before I came in here, and I thought to myself, I bet when I get on stage or I come into these rooms and I talk, I bet there are people who are watching. They're like, I want to be where he is, talking to people, I wonder what that's like, and the truth is, like, it's even as excited as I am, I also feel the I don't want to call it nerves, but I feel the energy, I feel the chemistry in my body, because I just know that for me, there's always stakes involved when I show up and deliver a message. I don't know how many people, if any, are going to hear this message and go out and do something amazing or nothing, and so I feel that when I come into these rooms, but at the same time, I also acknowledge the fact that, like, I get to come in here and do these things, and you've given me the ability to do that. So for that, I'm grateful, and so all this just gets to be fun that we get to have together.
Yeah. And I mean, that's almost getting ahead, because I'm like, that would be a great segue to just talking about fun in general. Yeah. But so where do I want to start? Because I know some things, and I
we can go wherever. I'm down.
Okay. So I'm just gonna start at the top. So talking about fun, right? I feel like, and I'll speak for myself, and then and you can share your perspective, but I do think that sometimes, and we were talking about this earlier with Tasha, about the pleasure, but pleasure and fun, all of that's tied in, and about how we don't often allow ourselves to experience that, right? Experience fun, experience joy, experience happiness. What do you think that's about? Like, why do you think that people have such a challenge with that?
I feel like part of it is, there's this, so the words like pleasure, joy, happiness, sometimes they get muddled together as if they're the same thing. And I don't believe that they are. I think there are three distinct things,
Give it to me. Come on. Yeah. This is good.
Yeah. Personally for me, I feel like, pleasure is an experience that you're able to have that's inspired by things outside of yourself, predominantly, I know there might be others who will argue that, and I can also see their side, and I agree with them on their perspective on internal pleasure. I believe that also exists, but just for the purpose of comparison, let's just roll with this, right? So a lot of pleasure typically comes from external things, whether it's people, places, and or things. Happiness is an emotion that you experience that is positive, that you can feel in that particular moment, and so you can feel happy about something.
Yes.
And joy for me is, in my experience, is the experience of accepting and loving who you are, where you came from, and where you are right now in this present moment. Joy now becomes like this ever living experience that can go on and take place for the entirety of your life, which is why we're here having this conversation, but we're not always going to have this feeling of happiness, and we're not always going to be, experiencing pleasure, right? But what ends up happening is that we're in pursuit of these two things, pleasures and happiness. When reality, what we want to do is we want to feel joy. We want to have the experience of joy that gets perpetuated and lasts for as long as we possibly can. And so I think oftentimes because we're in the pursuit of pleasure and happiness, and we add the layer of almost not allowing ourselves to experience those things right now, like we have to work for it. Right? Like we have to delay the happiness and the pleasures and the joy for a later time because we need to do something to feel like we earned it. It becomes this spiral in a way, this kind of everlasting loop where we do feel like we're the hamster on the wheel, trying to chase after something that we already have, but a game I wouldn't say we designed. We fell into a game that is designed for us to chase after that thing that we think we don't have, but we actually have always had from birth.
Yeah. It's so funny that you said, I'm like, were you here when I said that? Because I literally said, sometimes I feel like I have to earn the right to have fun or to experience pleasure or to have rest. Because I think I was talking about rest for myself. That was a form of pleasure. So, because yes. And that's what comes up is like, well, damn, I'm not like, have I done enough to be able to rest, to be able to go have fun today? And so I can't believe you just said that. So, okay. So if that's the thought, what is the solution, right? So that's the problem. And I know, and so I feel like I'm just keying you up to give us your solution, BTW. But I feel like if we are constantly just pursuing this happiness or this idea of pleasure and not allowing ourselves to experience that joy, and I do like how you broke down those three. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Do you have a solution or a way, a recommendation that people can use to stop running on the wheel, so to speak?
So there's two things I offer. One is kind of an instant fix, so to speak. And then the second one is the long-term sustainable solution. All right. So the first thing is allow yourself to have fun right now. Like, don't delay it. Give it to yourself right now, whatever that may be. It might mean 15 minutes to take a power nap. It could mean that bag of chips that you might want to have. It could mean taking yourself out to going to the movies, going out with your girlfriends, hanging out, doing whatever it is that you feel like you'll have a lot of fun doing. Give that to yourself as soon as possible, whether that's now, after this session, tonight, but put it in your calendar that this is going to happen. That's the instant fix.
Yeah.
Second thing, more of a long-term sustainable solution is learn how to enjoy the process of becoming a better person, or as I like to call it, have fun becoming your most complete self. So when you're able to actually enjoy the process of what it's like to grow and to develop, then you're not delaying happiness, you're not delaying pleasures, or you're not delaying joy. It's happening in real time. And it just requires a very significant reframe in your mind as to how you perceive life and how it's supposed to work. And I use these in quotes because we have our own programs around how life works. And we may not even realize that some of these programs were given to us. And a lot of these programs are programs that were forced upon us. But there's some truth underneath that can help us realize that we can create our own game and make life and make it fun, where we can win and have fun, right? The two can coexist.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. I definitely love that concept of making life more of a game. And I think I've been trying to I haven't used like the word game, but I've kind of just been trying to take life a little less serious, right? Like I just remind myself like, oh, this is arbitrary at the end of the day. And it does take a little pressure off. But I know that you've created the one-up effect, right? Which kind of really does allow people to I feel like it gives them the tools to make it a game. So will you talk to us about like what that is? Because I know it has a concept, and then like how you actually are implementing it. So start with where the one-up effect came from, if you would, please.
Yeah. So as stated in my bio, I in a former life I was a professional wingman, and a pretty good one at that. Hence why I got all the media accolades that I had in that spot on Steve Harvey. In fact, being on Steve Harvey was kind of the climax of my career at that point, because I was acknowledged by, one of the biggest influencers in that particular industry as one of the best, and I remember just being at a young age that I did it all. I've already done it all in my head. I've created an amazing lifestyle for myself. My life constantly was getting better. I found my own love, got married, clients are amazing. They're getting married and they're having success as well. Like, what could be better? And I remember just feeling this lack of fulfillment and disappointment in that moment, being on the rooftop of in Chicago. And I didn't know what to do with that. Couldn't shake it. Didn't know how to describe it. Didn't know how to talk about it, who to talk about it to, how to manage the disappointment and the fluctuation of emotions I was going through. And it threw me for a loop. And that loop, it started going down towards, deep depression that was fueled by alcohol and drug abuse. And I was, slowly losing everything that I had worked so hard for and thought I needed in order to be the person that I wanted to be. Yeah. And, if it got to the point where my wife came out and was like, basically, this is not the marriage I want to be in, something needs to change. And, I realized, okay, like I'm no longer equipped to like get beyond this point, and I'm drowning. I need support, because I was raised under the guidelines of, if I can't figure it out, then I basically am on my own, right? Like I have to find a way to figure it out. And I took that basically all the way down to the pits. So it was the first time where I felt like I was forced to actually ask for help, because at this point, if I didn't, I don't know where my life would have gone, And so that was the moment where I look back and I say, that was my first one-up, my extra life, because everything changed from there. And I started to really accumulate a lot of support, a lot of resources, hiring a coach. I had 2 therapists, so a psychiatrist, worked with an addiction doctor. I did leadership weekends, meditation retreats, recovery programs. I mean, I embraced and took on everything once it just opened up for me that I didn't have to do this alone anymore. And I was making incremental success in my life, but something still didn't feel right. Like I felt like I was doing all this stuff out of obligation. Now, let me be real and say that I created this life. And so I knew that the responsibility was there to uphold the responsibilities of being a dad, being a husband, being a business owner, being a son, being a brother, right? Being a friend, all these roles that I played in my life. But I wasn't having any fun. And I knew that if I wasn't going to enjoy this process, it was only going to be a matter of time before self-sabotage would kick in and I'd burn everything to the ground. So I made a point to look for something that would inspire this feeling that I could actually enjoy life. And that was when video games came back into my life. I've always been passionate and I loved video games as a little kid. But like I told you before, I was also, a victim of the external programming that came alongside playing video games. Like, you're too old to play video games. Video games are for kids. You don't learn anything playing video games. You're an entrepreneur. You're a businessman.
Killing your brain cells.
That. Right? All these things. And I decided for a moment to just kind of shed those stories. And when I picked up the controller, it was like I went back to when I was a little kid, and I was like, I need to keep this in my life. Like, how can I create a structure around it? So I decided to pursue a career. It was a very fleeting career as a semi-professional gamer. And I practiced, and I ended up competing in some tournaments. And I realized after my first tournament that if I could just find a way to make my entire life like a game, then everything would be amazing, and I looked back at all the personal development that I had, and I thought about video games, and I thought back to, we had talked about this in our interview about Super Mario Brothers, and how, when you're on your last life playing that game, it's a stressful experience because all you're trying to do is survive. And I think that's just so appropriate for life. When we feel like we're limited, or we don't have enough, or we don't feel like we're enough, then the entire experience of life just becomes purely based on survival and ego driven. And something magical happens when you get that first green mushroom, that 1-up. All of a sudden now you have this extra life where you can take your time, you can explore areas, you can be more willing to take risks, face obstacles, challenges. And if it so happens that Mario dies, it's okay. You have an extra life and the feedback that's going to allow you to go ahead and try again and be more successful. And that's where abundance comes from. Is this realization that it's not just this one-off experience that you get to have. You can actually live life like you found an extra one. And I love that concept. And so what the 1-up effect is, I wanted to give you the story and kind of share with you now what it is. It's an intuitive well-being framework that I've used with, my 13 years of coaching combined with my academic knowledge of game design, because ironically, I actually went to school to become a video game producer. And so I finally get to use my degree, Ma. Right?
I love that.
Yeah, that uses daily practices in your life where you can actually level up all areas of your life, not just one area, and be able to actually be happy, joyous, and free.
Amazing. I mean, so I love that story, first of all. And I love when you shared on the podcast, like the analogy of getting that extra life in Super Mario, because I told you, like, I sucked at it. So that always helps, because it's like, oh, great, I can do it one more time. I don't, if you're playing with your friends, you're like, great, I don't have to pass the controller again really quick, give up control. I mean, we could really go into the whole to-do of it. But what I want to highlight specifically is where you're saying that the 1-up effect is based on that 1-up life that you get, that extra life you get in the game, to be able to now, that you'll have a chance to go again, versus how you would play if you're trying to play it super safe and not do all the things. Maybe you don't jump for the extra coins up there and the purple star or whatever color it is. Now you're like, okay, now that I got that extra life, I'm going to do all the things. And so it's like applying that feeling to your life is what the 1-up effect is. Yeah.
And if you're here listening and you're not connecting with the video games, I totally understand. This is not just for someone who understands video games. It's anyone who has the mental capacity of taking any activity that could be otherwise boring and finding a way to make it fun. The analogy the example that I used was, if you're trying to get somewhere and you plug it, where you are now and where you're trying to go into like Google Maps or something like that, your mind, once you see the results, may go in the direction of like, I can beat that time, right? We talked about that, right? I'm the same way, right? All of a sudden now it becomes, that experience of getting there becomes a game.
Yeah.
Where you're now, once you get down to the destination, you get some feedback. Either you surpassed the time, maybe you got there right on time, or maybe it took a little bit longer than anticipated. But we love the idea of seeing if we can do something better than what maybe someone else or something else thinks we can do. And we make a game out of it. We've always been doing this as kids. It's just at some point we stopped And like you said, we started to take life a little too seriously. And so I'm taking that mentality, and that mentality is actually really helpful when we're trying to, become what I call high performing, right? If we're trying to, achieve at the highest level, we still need that. But I'm also bringing in this other side that we have that's just been very dormant, which is that playful side that can make anything fun and enjoyable and sustainable.
Absolutely. I love it. So, okay, we know what the one-up effect is now. So are you willing to give us some of like the key principles of what make up that one-up effect so that we can really start seeing how we can apply it in our lives?
Yes, and the principles are key. So, and there's 4 key principles. The first one is called accepting your character. And when you're playing a game, any game, even Super Mario Brothers, right? You choose who you want to be. You could be Mario, you could be Luigi. If you're playing a fighting game, you can choose whatever character you want to be because you might like how they look, or you might like certain ratings about them. But in life, we don't get that choice. The character has already been chosen. It's you, playing this game of life. And what I oftentimes see, and I've experienced it myself with my clients, is we don't fully accept ourselves. And there's different dimensions to this. We might really fully embrace the things about ourselves that are awesome, that are just put on blast and highlighted and enjoyed and revered and acclaimed. But there's also parts of us that we don't want highlighted. We don't want to know. We're ignorant to, or we hide from them. These might be shadows, perceived weaknesses, blind spots, things about ourselves that may even cause self-sabotage. But until we embrace and accept and, dare I say, love those parts of ourselves, we'll never be fully equipped to change the game in the way that we want to play it. And so accepting your character, which is you, is the most important part of the process. Nothing else can really work until you're able to accept all of who you are fully. And until that happens, you're not going to be fully equipped to be able to evolve into the person that you desire to be at the end of the day. So that's the first principle. Second principle is know what game you're playing. A lot of people super successful, thinking they're crushing it, and they're not happy. By my definition, you're likely playing someone else's game, and that person's happy. And I don't believe that if you're winning and not happy, that you're actually winning the game. That is not the kind of game that I personally want to play in life. And I know there's a lot of people who prefer to win and be happy, right? We always have this idea that we need to sacrifice. We need to give up something. I'm not fully about that right off the bat. Sometimes we just need to upgrade. Sometimes we just need to optimize. Other times we need to add something before we take something away, right? It's really important to understand that if you're trying to win and be happy, the only way that's possible is if you play your own game and not someone else's, because someone else's game is not designed for you to be happy. And that's the majority of games that are being played in today's life. That's why like the media and everything you see is all about how other people are living successfully, looking like they're having fun. But all it does is to lead you to believe that in order to be happy, you have to be successful. And that's not actually true. So that's the important thing. Know what game you're playing. Third principle is learn how to play. Oftentimes we see life as what we want to accomplish in the future, and then we try to reverse engineer it. I'm of the belief that we need to do it the other way around. Like, what do you want to do today? And then if you're able to repeat this and commit to repeating this every day, what could your life look like a year from now? Because ultimately, you might realize that what you're doing every day is more fulfilling than anything you could have wanted a year from now. And what you end up having a year from now looks completely different than what you thought you wanted a year from now, because of the simple fact that you have no idea of the person you're going to become tomorrow, let alone a year from now. And so it's all about breaking things down into daily, I call it HP, which stands for health points, but it also stands for healthy practices. because we're not machines. We get worked like machines, but we're not machines. We actually have a health bar that depletes over time based on what happens in our day-to-day lives. And what I notice with a lot of people is they don't do enough to replenish that health meter. So when we talk about how we burn out and how we get exhausted about life and we don't have the ability to handle all the responsibilities, I can easily, through science and also, my own proprietary information, I can always look and see what your HP level is like, and I can tell you why you're burning out, when it's going to happen, and how often it happens, due to the fact of what your day-to-day activity is when it comes to taking care of yourself. And there's different ways of taking care of yourself. There's physically, mentally, spiritually, but it's also your level of kindness. What are you doing to express kindness? What are you doing to express love to yourself? What are you doing to enjoy the day? These are all just examples of how to, replenish your HP. But then there's also other metrics such as magic points, MP. How are you taking lessons that you're learning in your life, and how are you spreading it out across other areas of your life? We, due to our one-dimensional nature, oftentimes we will learn a lesson in our careers and only keep it in our careers, right? Not realizing that it actually could be something that could help us be a better parent or be a better partner, or find ways where we can improve our physical wellness or our connection to spirit or God or whatever your understanding of a higher power is, if that's something that you believe in, right? We tend to stay limited, and that limits our ability to evolve and transform as human beings, and so there's different metrics in it. I just want to give a couple metrics in terms of how to play. And then the fourth, and I believe as important as a principle as any of the other ones, is play, then win, right? We forget that games are designed actually for us to have fun. But we go into them trying to win first and foremost, right? And that's what makes games frustrating oftentimes, because we're not able to figure out how to win. And so because we can't win, it may not be a game worth playing. It may be too hard. Maybe you start feeling like you're not good enough. But if games were designed for you to win, then every game out there would be too easy for us, because people who make games want us to keep playing the game. Right? They don't want it to be this one-off experience that you play and you win and then you're dissatisfied, because that just defeats the purpose. But when we play first, something magical happens, I think, physically, mentally, but also spiritually. There's a certain part of our minds that activates, that triggers curiosity, wonder, determination, like happiness, joy, right? A little bit of pleasure. Dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. I mean, these are all parts of the equation, but when put together, it creates this magical experience of connection to something, right? And when we're able to connect to what we're experiencing, our ability to actually achieve what it is that we're going after from a daily output increases. And it makes us more likely to actually accomplish the thing that we're going after through play, as opposed through trying to win. And so the importance of playing first, then winning is so key, because winning just becomes a byproduct of the experience of playing, as opposed to its singular purpose. Because once you win, it's over, right? It's done. It becomes now this finite experience that you don't get to have again, which is why when we get that promotion, or we make that money, or we get into that relationship, or lose that weight, there is that emptiness that I felt when I felt like at the top of that rooftop in Chicago. Because now I'm thinking, what's next? Why isn't this enough? This is what I wanted 2 years ago and I got it. Why is this not enough? I need to now think about the next thing. But the problem was, I realized, this is me in reflection, I realized there was never going to be the next thing. And what I mean by that is there will always be a next thing, but there's not going to be a final thing, right? It's just not going to exist. And so I'm basically going to be running this rat race the rest of my life. That was the reality that I had to face And that got me into the depression.
Right.
You know, and I was like, I didn't. And so by choosing not to do this and just saying, hey, like, I know I'm going to set milestones. I know I'm going to set goals, and I'm a very ambitious person. That's just by nature. What can I do to enjoy the experience now on my path to getting there? Yeah. And that for me changed everything.
Yeah. I so much goodness in this. And I want to make sure I have the 4 principles down. The first one is accept your character. Number 2, know what game you're playing. Did I get the order wrong? Oh, that's right. Okay. And then 3 is learn how to play. Right. And that, and then the last one is play, then win.
Yes.
I love it. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. So once we have so actually, let me just say this, because I'm listening to this. I just wrote down these things and I'm like, yes, got it. What is like the first thing that I need to do now to start kind of shifting into one-upping my life, using the one-up effect, right? So that I can experience more happiness? What would you suggest for somebody like myself?
So oftentimes when I present this, the instant comeback that I get is like, how do I have time? Right? I don't have time for this. Like, I'm running a business. I'm a parent. I have kids. I have a partner that also wants some loving. Like, you know what I mean? I got to take all these things. I get it, right? Like, there's a lot of responsibilities and roles that we have chosen to acquire in our lives. I keep saying it that way because we chose it. It wasn't just like forced upon us for the most part, right? We chose these things. So the way I like to keep it simple, and at first when this came to mind, I was like, man, this is so cliche, but I was like, no, this is really important, because if we keep things simple, then they can be manageable, right? And so the way to do this is what I call start with 1%. What that means is you can commit 1% of your day, each day, to doing something that gets you at least 1% closer to who and where you want to be in your life. So I'll use a little bit of math just to break it down, right? So if you do the same thing every day that doesn't improve your life, right? So let's say you're at the number 1 and you try to do the same thing every day, nothing better, right? 1 to the power of 365 is 1, right? It'll never go, it'll never change.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you just try to do something 1%, right? So 1.01 times 365, that equals 37. And so just from a conceptual standpoint, doing something that can push you just 1% could potentially increase your results by up to 37 times, right? This is just a concept, right? This isn't reality, but I want to just open up the mind to the idea that just by doing that much can make a significant difference. Yeah. Right. And so now let's break down what 1% of our day looks like. 1% of your day is 15 minutes. 1% of your day is 15 minutes. That's it. You know, you don't have to do it all today, right? But you get to do one thing today.
Yeah.
That's it. One thing. That's why I said, like, if you schedule something in your calendar in the next 24 hours that can allow you to experience fun and joy now, because when you experience that moment, what ends up connecting is that, wow, like, I either held this back from me and now I don't want to do that, or you'll just get this feeling of, oh, this is what life's supposed to feel like. I earned this. Like, I deserve this. Why haven't I been giving myself this more often? Well, you can do that 1% each day. 15 minutes. That's it. And if you want to grow beyond that, the way that, you know, I have, then you can do that. But even if you're just 1%, do that for a month. Your life will look different. I can guarantee that, because you're finally going to give yourself the time that you think you didn't have. And it's going to be amazing. Because what I learned from this, I just wanted to share, I don't know if it's a secret I'm going to share, but I think it's important to share it. the game that is being presented to us is all about trying to have money equate freedom.
Oh,
right? Money equals abundance. Money equals happiness, right? Like it's always this connection. But it doesn't matter how much money you make. If you don't have the time to enjoy your life, then what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? The game that we get to play is all about time affluence. The people who have the most time to live their lives are the ones who are always the happiest. And it doesn't matter how much money they make. And the only reason why I know this is because I've been in plenty of recovery rooms for people who make less than me and probably make less than a lot of people in this room. And I get inspired by the way they talk about their lives and how happy they are. You know, so I know that there's a reality that exists where so many of us can be happy with what we have right now and who we are right now. And we just don't give ourselves permission to do that because we're still in the program of what we think how we're supposed to live our lives.
Yeah. Wow. Time affluence. I don't know if you just made that up today, but that's the first time I've heard that. No, I just didn't know today. But I mean, it's a really powerful statement, you know, because that is the thing. You're right. You're absolutely right. I love that. And so, okay, so 1% of our day, just start with the 1%. And I also love that as well. You said 1 to 365 is 1.01 to 365 is 37. And that right there is all it is. So I really, really love that. I want to just let everybody know if you have questions, now is the time. You can raise your hand if you have a comment for Thomas. But this has just been really, really interesting. Like I was taking notes. I just want you to know.
I love it.
And I really love the concept of this game. And so I want to know, I would love for you to let everybody know if they want to start playing the game with you, how can they work with you to start one-upping their lives?
Yes. So one of the things you can do is you can actually have a book that is coming out. I just finished the manuscript and I'm going to be working with my publishing team starting tomorrow. I'm super pumped. It is called The One Up Effect, and you can go to oneup.com and you can pre-order yourself a copy. The second thing is if we can work together. There's two different ways I like to do. Actually, there's more than two ways. One is if you want to understand more of you as the character playing this game, I actually created a character masterclass that really allows me to break each dimension of your character down and have it revealed to you in a way that is, I mean, the feedback has been awesome. And when I meet, and some of it was surprising because one person, for example, has said, I felt exposed, you know, and at first I was like, oh, I don't know if I want, but the truth is like, yes, like you will feel exposed, but in the best way possible, because you're going to realize that like, it's going to be so key for you to know every part of your character, even if it's something that you may not want to know, because those things that you've been hiding from or are afraid to talk about or even ignore might actually become some of your greatest assets moving forward in life. And so you can go to thomasedwardsjr.com/character. I believe that's the URL you can check out. Or we can work together one-on-one or in a group mastermind experience I call The Quest. Either way, you can just go to thomasedwardsjr.com/book, BOOK. And you can schedule a time to chat with me.
Amazing. Okay. So I see Magnolia, I see you have your hand raised. And so I just want to give the heads up. We have our next session starting in about 5 minutes. So we are going to be wrapping up soon, but go ahead, Magnolia. What's your question for Thomas?
Thomas, I actually took notes on your talk because it was very interesting, especially when you were on the rooftop and you were thinking, what am I going to do? And so a lot of us are stuck. And that 1%, It's really not a question. It's just the things that I'm going over with you and how you derived at the moment that you felt this way and what happened for you to do that 1% more, that 15 minutes every day. How did that come about in your mind?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, um, when I started working with one of my coaches, his name's Garrett White. He's founder of Wake Up Warrior. He has a militaristic approach to coaching. And at the time, I needed that because I just lacked discipline. I lacked integrity with where I was in my life. And he had this idea is like, you take 1 hour, you do, a ritual that makes you feel powerful and get out the door, right? Ready to just take on the world. I needed that. And over time, what I found out was it's not necessarily a matter of time that I needed, but I needed to do something that touched each area of my life that was important to me. And I'll quit. Oh, hold on. I don't know what happened there, but can you see me?
Let me see. No, you're still we still have the little.
Okay, I'm gonna switch it up. Different cam. Okay.
There we go.
Awesome. Thank you. And so I'll break down there's 12, I call them 12 streams, because I believe that in life, kind of like in business, how you try to create multiple streams of revenue, I believe that we can create multiple streams of life, right? And when we're able to create multiple streams of life, we don't become dependent on just one. Because the moment we become dependent is the moment we become resentful, and so the streams of life are in the world of purpose, there's physical, mental, spiritual wellness. In the world of play, there are the people, places, and experiences that bring me joy. In the world of passion, it's love of myself, love of my partner, and of my daughter, in my case, and then love of the world, which for me is, I call it scaling empathy. And then in the world of performance, it's increasing, sharing, and asking for value. So I looked at that, and these are all important areas of my life. And this is also the framework of the oneup effect. And I thought, if I can find a way throughout the day, doesn't have to be in the morning, because listen, I can feel great in the morning, but come 2:30 and I'm hitting that dip, I didn't have a ritual in place that was going to get me locked in again, right? And so I decided was to create, the ritual of HP, healthy practices, health points, right? To be a daily thing, where throughout the entire day, I take a little bit of time and I try to plug into each stream of my life. And the way and because there are 12 streams, it can easily be overwhelming to look at that, right? How am I going to be able to level up in each stream every day? Well, I was like, well, what does 1% look like? Right. And I literally, and because I love numbers, I just love messing around with numbers, I took that to a literal perspective, right? So I used to wake up and I would do 20 push-ups, right? And so what's 1% of that, right? That's not even like 21, right? It's still like, it's 20.2 push-ups or something like that, right? So I couldn't necessarily calculate 0.2, but I realized, I was like, how many days would it take before I'm getting to 21, right? And then I'm like, oh, well, it probably would take like 7 days to get there. Well, I could probably do 21 tomorrow, right? So I'll do 21 tomorrow. So for me, it was I took it as a literal sense. And it made me actually tangibly see like, oh, I could probably do a little bit more today. And it doesn't mean that now I'm able to do 150 push-ups today, but it's just a matter of, if I want something in my life to be a little bit better, what's 1% better look like? And then I make that the new habit.
I get
right? It. I make that the thing that becomes the habit for the next 90 days, for example.
I get it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I don't want Camille to run out of time. I see that look on her face. I can read faces. So thanks a lot for sharing, Thomas. We really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I like that explanation. I think I'm going to try that little 1% trick for my life. I was like, oh, you know what? I could work out for 15 minutes every day. I could do that.
Yeah.
So I love that.
And remember, I will say, the last thing I say is,
yeah,
don't get wrapped up in what it looks like.
yeah,
Right? Get wrapped up in the experience of it. So if you're thinking exercise means you need to sweat, then chances are you're going to be less likely to want to do it. But if 15 minutes of exercise means going for a walk around the block, then that might actually be the trick.
yeah.
Right? That gets it rolling. So don't get tied up in what it looks like. Get tied up in the experience.
I love that. I love that. That is a really, really great tip. Thomas, thank you so much. I have really, really appreciated and enjoyed just hearing from you and learning about your one-up effect, and really inside of the process of doing this summit, getting to know you a little bit better as well. So I just really want to just give my gratitude to you again for being here today, for sharing, for teaching us about your about the one-up effect and what that means exactly. And can you please let everybody know how they can find you? Did you say it already? I don't think you did. How
Well, yeah, I mean, I just talked about, website stuff, but, I'm on social. Most of my handles are Thomas H. Edwards Jr. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. I actually just launched it earlier this week. I'm committed to doing 180 days. So one video every day for the next 6 months. That handle is Thomas, youtube.com/C, whatever that C is, / Thomas Edwards Jr. So, yeah, check it out, subscribe. My DMs are open. So any questions or comments that you have for me, please feel free to reach out. As you can tell, I'm very open and transparent, and I would just love to be able to support you guys and have more fun in your life.
I love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much, Thomas. This has been amazing, amazing, amazing. If you have a few minutes to stick around, so at least in the lobby, if people have other questions for you, that would be amazing. This has been great. And y'all, it's time for us to go to the next session. Stacy already has the room open, so please just meet us over there. We're going to close out this room in 3, 2, and 1.